Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, good morning, happy Tuesday. Today, Tuesday, May 5th, Tuesday of the 5th week of Easter. One of the key figures in the Acts of Apostles is Paul, Saint Paul. Paul, whose original name was Saul, was a convert. He was a persecutor of the early church, but when Jesus appeared to him and Paul converted, he became a Christian, was baptized, became a Christian, became one of the columns of the early church, to the point that he was listed along with the disciples. Peter and Paul were the two key figures in the early church. And Paul was a true missionary. If we look at the map of Paul's journeys, that's really impressive. It's really impressive how far Paul went and how far he traveled to preach the gospel. That's why he traveled around the Mediterranean, from Jerusalem to modern-day Turkey, Greece, Malta, Rome. He traveled around the Mediterranean to preach the gospel. That was his mission. Paul, in his letter, often says that my mission is to preach the gospel. This is what Jesus has called me. He has called me to preach his good news. This aspect of preaching the gospel, this boldness and this passion in preaching the gospel, that's one of the key characteristics of the early church. Not just Paul, all the disciples, but Paul in particular shows in the Acts of Apostles and his letters, he shows us this passion for Christ, this boldness in preaching the gospel, and his desire for people to meet Jesus, to get to know Jesus. One of the key characteristics of the early church was the missionary aspect. Church understood herself as being sent by Christ to preach the gospel. And this is one of the consequences of a resurrection, to be sent to others, to preach the gospel, to share the good news with others. So we are all missionaries. To be a missionary is really to go and preach the good news, preach the gospel. Very often we limit our understanding of being a missionary to somebody, a priest usually or a nun, who goes to third world country to help people in need, which is also true. That's one aspect of Catholic missions, of church missions. But to be a missionary is really to preach the gospel. In this sense, we're all being called, all of us are being called to be missionaries. I was a missionary in Taiwan for 10 years. People in Taiwan don't know the gospel, and so I was really exposed to people who didn't know anything about Jesus, and I wanted to share the good news of the gospel with them. Here in the United States, a lot of people already know about Jesus, or actually a lot of people think they already know a lot about Jesus. And unfortunately, a lot of people either say, I'm not interested, or have rejected Jesus, or what they think they know about him. But instead, we have been called to reach out also to these people who don't know Jesus, people who maybe are lapsed Catholics, or people simply drifted away from the church for no particular reason. Jesus, the risen Lord, calls us to be missionaries, to preach the gospel everywhere we go, wherever we are. How do we preach the gospel? First and foremost, through what we do. More than what we say, more than just saying something, it's important to show others through our life that we are Catholics, we believe in Jesus. So we need to be disciples, we need to walk in the ways of the Lord, to be like Jesus, to imitate what Jesus did. And that way we will show to others, to everyone, that being Christians and being disciples of Jesus is really something beautiful and attractive. Take care and God bless.